CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. As always, this is Derek Thord, and with me,
Jarza Arlong.
it's good to be back covering another chapter today, chapter 14, House of Chains. I've been anxious to cover this one, a lot of it because I want to move on and read the next chapter, but I did reread this chapter this morning before Justin and I jumped on here, and man, this was a good chapter too. I think we'll have a good time talking about this.
Yeah. It's I read it last night before I went out. So I'm a little hungover. Got a little bit of a minor headache going on right now, which is fine. I have my water and I got my caffeination, so should be good.
What did you do last night?
One of my coworkers, he's a good buddy of mine. He has a band, and so he was playing a show. So he invited all of his coworkers out to go see. So I hung out with my boss. Danny came, and my network infrastructure manager. He was there too. So it was just all of us just drinking beers and listening to Midwest pop punk.
Oh, nice. Sounds like a good time. Where's that at?
It was at a bar called the White Squirrel in St. Paul.
I have not heard of that place.
It's kind of a dinky little place, but the patio out back is pretty decent. That's what I'm a big fan of. Like, get me at a bar, get me with a beer around the most important people in my life, and around a fire. I'm good. I'm golden.
Nice.
Yeah. So
sounds like a good time.
We should do that soon.
We should.
Yeah. Take a break from our busy lives and do non-podcast things.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah, it would. How about you? I know that you moved. We just talked about that.
I didn't move. I helped. Yeah, we helped my wife's mom and stepdad move. So hopefully that's the last time that I have to do that.
You guys are doing the basement stuff. Is that how? Okay, so this is the episode where we have to pause for a second.
Why?
Because didn't you say it was going to take a couple weeks to do the basement?
Oh,
the basement, so you wouldn't have time to record and read.
I did. Oh, yeah. I'm not really sure how that'll work. So May 19th and 20th is when my basement's getting worked on.
Oh, okay. We can squeeze another one in.
Yeah. We'll probably be able to. We will have to, like, my wife and I are going to do the demolition ourselves. So we have to have that done before then. So we gotta rip out all the sheetrock. We gotta take the studs out. We gotta rip carpet out in where I'm at right now. I gotta get all my shit out of here. We gotta get our couch. Like, our house is gonna be a wreck for a while. And then we'll have to put it back together. Like, we'll have to sheetrock it, insulate it, all that type of stuff. So that'll be kind of a long process. So yeah, I might end up just recording in a different part of the house or something. So I don't know how much. Yeah, back to the kitchen. Probably not the closet.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm hoping my parents will be able to come help with some stuff, and that'll go a little bit quicker. But it'll still probably be kind of it might be like an all summer long thing to get things put back together, the way it was prior, but it'll be nice to have a basement I don't have to worry about ever getting wet again. So
Nice. Well, offers still on
Unless
the
the
table.
whole world floods.
If you need help, let me know.
Hey, yeah, you come down. We can do some demo, and then we can go to the bar in town here that I've been to like 5 times. So
All right.
every time I go there, I get like people look at us like, "Who are you?" Like, dude, I've lived here for like 8 years now.
Yeah,
But it's just small town life.
that's probably a good thing.
Yeah,
They're out of your
I have
business then.
we have walked in there a couple times with our own beers. So
Nice. Well, I guess we should move on to our wonderful list of chains of dogs or chain of dogs, eh?
yeah, let's go for it.
All right, starting us off, and in order of subscription, we've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Utrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Facing the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, My Own Genesis, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, and a special shout out to Brian Bug for finding an Easter egg.
He did find it, and it was pretty quick. What was it? A couple days of that episode going live.
Joyful Union is the one who found it first.
Oh shit! Yeah. That's right. But still, that's probably what I was thinking of. That there was a couple. My brain not working today, guys. Sorry, but yeah, it was pretty quick. So
yeah, I was definitely not expecting that. So I guess good to know that we have at least 2 listeners who are listening till the end. So
you never know what you get. You never know what you find.
Maybe you and I will have to try to maybe hide another one in there somewhere. Some cryptic coding or something.
If listen to it backwards.
Ooh. And then that means we got to learn how to talk backwards.
Yeah, they're going to think like that one of us had a stroke or something until they listen to it backwards.
Or we're going to speak this one statement in a different language.
That'd be kind of fun.
Backwards. Oh, that's another thing we could do. Speak it in a different language.
Or try to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
We're giving away secrets here.
Trade secrets. Yes. Ignore all of that, Patreons.
Or anybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, epigraph here. The Teblor have long earned their reputation as slayers of children, butchers of the helpless, as mortal demons delivered unto the Nathi in a curse altogether undeserved. The sooner the Teblor are obliterated from their mountain fastnesses, the sooner the memory of them will finally begin to fade, until Teblor is no more than a name used to frighten children. We see our cause as clear and singular. The Crusade of 1147, Ayed Corborn.
What do you think this means to you?
Somebody was sick of the Teblor and wanted to wipe them off the face of the earth, the planet.
Well, do you think this is why they fell?
Maybe they took a bunch of them out. Could be.
I almost kind of get like genocide vibes from this. So I'm wondering if that is maybe kind of going back to the very beginning of the book where they read whatever it is in that cave and they're talking about Icarium told the tribes to separate, and like this is maybe what happened shortly before then.
Could be.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I guess I never like looked at the Teblor from this perspective.
Yeah, I didn't really ever think of them as being on the verge of extinction or anything.
Well, right. Or even as monsters to scare children. You know what I mean? But also, is this children as in lowlanders, or is this children as in children?
Could be both.
Fair enough. All right. I just thought it was kind of a cool epigraph to start us off.
Yeah.
All right. We ready for the first section here in chapter 14 of House of Chains?
I'm ready.
Karsa jogged through snow as he traversed the mountain range skirting the desert. The snow was shin deep, slowing his jog. The wolves that were chasing him seemed to be able to run along the surface without issue. Somewhere to the west, he knew there would be the city of Lato Ravai. Karsa had no interest in visiting, but knew he would have to skirt the city but that was still a few weeks of travel yet. As he ran along the slope, he could feel the presence of his ghostly companions. Ghost spirits at most, but maybe nothing more than fractured fragments of his own mind. Perhaps he was just indulging himself, but on the contrary, Bayroth Guild's harsh criticism would prove he wasn't indulging himself. He felt he was a slave once more, hunching to each flog. The notion that he was doing this to himself was beyond the realm of possibility. Bayroth said that it wasn't beyond possibility if only Karza stopped and allowed himself to think. Karza told Bayroth, or potentially himself, that he was running and will soon be run out of breath. Delum Thord chimes in and tells him that it's because of the altitude. He explains to Karza that he may not yet feel, but he has been descending, and soon will leave the snow behind. Delum added that Karza's whole journey had been a descent. Karza couldn't spare a moment to ponder that. Bayroth said that when the snow was gone, the wolves would attack. Karza told Bayroth that he knew that, and to be quiet as there was solid ground ahead. The wolves saw this bare rock as well. He watched as 4 wolves, 2 on each side, sprinted ahead, making a break for the bare rock. Karza unslung his wooden sword and continued onward. Bayroth chimed in, saying that the wolves wanted the sure footing of the bare rock, and warned about the ones at his back, as they would attack moments before the Teblor reached the bare rock. Karza bared his teeth at Bayroth's intrusive advice. He heard a sudden thumping of paws as the wolves behind him raced past. Karza was surprised as he slowed his steps, the wolves now forming a semicircle in front of him. He readied his weapon, and for once Bayroth was silent. A stranger's voice spoke inside his head. The wolves told Karza that they enjoyed that, for they had been chasing Karza for 3 days and 4 nights. They have never been more exhausted to chase prey. They asked if Karza would do them harm. Karza shook his head, recognizing the language as Malazan. Or he tells them that they are like Soul Taken, but D'Ivers. He explains that he has killed Soul Taken and tells the D'Iver wolves to look upon the fur on his shoulders as evidence. He warns the wolves to attack if they will, but he will kill them all, and then he will have a new cloak that the gods would envy. The wolves stated that they no longer intended to kill the Teblor, but rather to give him a warning that he was on someone's trail. Karza knows and figures out that he was on the trail of 2 men, walking side by side, neither leading nor following. The wolves tell Karza that there is an air of danger riding Karza's shoulder, and to heed their warning, as if the Teblor crosses the pair, the world would come to regret it. Karza shrugged and said that he's not interested in crossing with anyone unless these 2 get in the way. He tells the wolves that he is done talking and asks them to get out of his way or he would kill them. The wolves hesitated and told Karza to tell the pair that Rylanderus sought to dissuade him. Karza watched as the wolves wheeled around and left. Inside his head, he could hear a thunderous laugh from Bayroth. Karza nodded and said out loud to himself that no one could blame him for what has not yet happened. Bayroth said that Karza was growing into himself and asked what the Teblor warrior was going to do. As he slung the wooden sword, he told Bayroth that he was going to meet these 2 travelers. This time, Bayroth did not laugh. So I loved the way that this chapter opened. You know, it's just, you kind of get a very cinematic feel, you know, like you're just starting to watch a movie, you know, it's just a close-up shot of someone's legs running through snow, and then like another shot of like wolves running through snow, but their like paws aren't piercing the snow, they're just running on top of it. And then, you know, it kind of like pans out, cuts back to like Karza, and he's like just like jogging through the snow. I just thought that was just a very cool image, you know, so I dug it.
Yeah.
And kind of taking a Damien's wise wisdom, I noticed a theme, the semicircles. The wolves formed a semicircle, and there's a few other instances of semicircles in this chapter. So,
okay.
Yeah. If they were summarized, we can point them out, but yeah.
I can think of one.
Yeah. Well, then maybe not a theme, but
well, that's just all I'm remembering right now, or that I'm pulling on, anyways. I don't even remember if it was a semicircle. It might have been just a full circle.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess the first comment that I had about this first section here is this part where the ghost spirits at most, but maybe nothing more than he had fractured fragments of his own mind. Well, actually, I love kind of what this is doing for several reasons, or for several things. I got the sense that it's making us, the readers, maybe doubt Karza's sanity a little bit. Two, it's kind of drawing a parallel to Gerald Emerlon as the shattered Elder Warren. Fragmented, right? Fractured. Three, it's maybe suggesting that Bayroth and Delum represent different facets of Karza's personality, which is similar to the doubt part, us readers doubting his sanity. But I don't really kind of feel like that's the same, because I feel like personality disorder versus doubt are a little bit dramatically different. I guess the one instance that I think of is back all the way in Gardens of the Moon, when we meet Krupp for the first time in his dreams, and he like sees different versions of himself in the dream. That's kind of what I'm seeing here, or kind of the sense that I'm getting here, is that maybe Bayroth and Delum aren't actually ghosts, because if you think about it, he didn't kill them, right? So they have no reason to trail him.
He didn't kill them, no, but I think
he feels guilty, or he felt guilty.
I think they are ghosts, because you see other instances where people say, oh, besides the two ghosts that are following you.
Do they explicitly say two, though? Or do they say, oh, your ghostly companions?
I thought they said two. Maybe they didn't, but
I don't know. I think it's interesting that this is being thrown in there, right? Like, I don't know if it's meant to be as divisive as we potentially just saw between each other, or if there maybe is a fragment of truth, right? Maybe Bayroth and Delum are facets of his own mind, and this is how he's able to propel himself forward. Is he's got this belief that his two friends have reconciled after they've died, and they're helping him. But I just feel like it kind of goes back to Delum Thord's descent comment. And I didn't really think much of it at the time, but now that I'm just rambling aimlessly, Delum is saying like his whole journey has been a descent. Well, I mean, journey kind of is all inclusive, right? That should include all facets of his journey, which would include his two friends, right?
It could, yeah.
So I just thought it was weird. It's obviously meant to make you think otherwise.
Well, you've got me thinking, like, I feel like somebody mentions, his two ghosts following him.
Are you talking later on in this chapter, or just other instances?
Well, I'm thinking about this chapter, and I don't remember if it was Mappo and Ikariam talking to him about that.
I think that Mappo, Ikariam, and Armala all say the same thing.
I was trying to page through quick and see, but I don't remember exactly where it was. Oh, well. I don't think it mattered. I mean,
maybe you summarized it, so we'll
maybe.
see. But
yeah,
maybe there's. I mean, I have a little bit more things kind of to add on top of this. Just again, kind of like another example of like the multiple personalities stuff. Karza is having this thought, kind of going off the fractured fragments of his own mind. And Karza's like, am I just indulging myself? Am I like making myself do this? Because Bayroth's criticism would be evidence against that. And he felt a slave, kind of taking beatings again. And the notion that he was doing that to himself was unrealistic, But then Bayroth, to that thought, says that it wasn't beyond possibility if only Karza stopped and allowed himself to think, right? So it kind of gives contrary to what Karza is thinking, but also acknowledges what Karza is thinking about it being a possibility, that he's doing this to himself. It's strange to me because it kind of plays into the multi-personalities again. And I honestly wonder now if maybe this is true, which I think would be a huge disappointment for us, just you and I, but as well for Karza. I think that we like the idea of them being ghosts, that there's some personification of their characters. But really, this whole time, it could have just been a manifestation of his mind.
I would probably be a little disappointed.
Yeah. Subverting expectations. It's a big part of reading these books sometimes.
Yeah.
I really didn't have a ton, but the kind of third thing that I really enjoyed is when Karza kind of gets, I wouldn't say defiant, but maybe just slightly confrontational with the wolves. He's like, look upon, huh?
He gets a little snippy, maybe.
Yeah. He's obviously doesn't seem like he's got any patience for this. But yeah, no, and he's just kind of looking at these divers and he's like, look upon my soul taken fair.
Yeah, he's a little cocky there.
Get out of my way or I'll kill you to have a new cloak that the gods would envy. So they would just make Diver cloak.
Yep.
Yeah. I also don't remember, did we hear of the soul taken bear that he killed? Or is that just like an off-screen thing? Because like when we ran across that part, not sure where it is in this chapter. I think it's in the next section when he's talking to Mappo. But he's just like, yeah, I killed a soul-taking bear. And then Mappo's just like, oh yeah, we knew him, but that's okay. We didn't like him.
I don't remember if it was in this book or if that was in Deadhouse Gates.
No, it's in this section 2.
No, I know that, but I mean when he killed the bear.
Maybe. I feel like we didn't really get much of Karza's perspective alone in Deadhouse Gates. He was always with somebody, either Leomin or Shaik or Haborik.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just gonna assume it happened off screen.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember. Could have.
Yeah, I don't either.
Or we just kind of glossed over it earlier in this book, I guess.
Maybe. Last thing that I had is kind of when Rylandris is talking about heeding the war or heeding the Templar if they cross the pair. I just, at this moment in time when I first read it, I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is Mappo and Akarium. Like as he's describing this pair, neither one is leading nor following. So it was kind of cool that as I kept reading, the pair showed up. So that was fun, I guess.
I had the same thought. I felt like it had to be them.
Yeah, I don't know who else it would be. But also, and I'm assuming maybe this is just for reassurance on my part, but this is definitely after the events of Deadhouse Gates, right? After they go through the Azath house.
I would think so. I mean, yeah, because that's, for whatever reason, I've really struggled with that timeline, like in this book, like, because I know there was at one point where I felt like they were kind of running parallel for whatever reason. And you're like, no, dude, like this is, after Deadhouse Gates. I'm like, oh yeah, why did I think otherwise?
Yeah.
But,
so, and I know that in Deadhouse Gates, pretty sure Rylandris meets Mappo and Akarium in the desert kind of earlier on in the book.
Yeah, I think it was in one of the first couple chapters.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool to see him back, with the snow in the very beginning of this chapter, and then the wolves chasing him. I almost thought that like it was a dream at first, or like he had somehow traveled somewhere else. But then it was kind of described that it was the mountains skirting the desert, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's all I had for that section. So,
well, I'll take my my first and second to last section here.
Yeah.
Karza continued his descent, the snow under his feet melting and gave way to warmer air. There appeared to be one way down, and it was more a stream than a trail. There was not much in the way of indication, so Karza assumed the two travelers went this way as well. Karza, slowing down, he was exhausted, but he would not show that weakness to the divers. Ready to collapse, this was not an ideal state to be in if he came across this creature capable of destroying the world, but he kept moving forward as if it were his fate. Barath spoke in his mind, and fate, Karsa Orlong, carries its own momentum. Karsa said if he was going to talk smack to him, at least give him some good advice. The words from Landris were blown way out of proportion, were they not? Barath agreed, saying there was no power in the world that would pose such a threat to the world. More likely, the divers had encountered who they followed, and it went poorly for them. Karsa thought Barath was probably right and asked Delim what he thought, as he had not said too much lately. Delim said he was troubled. He thought that divers was a powerful demon to be able to take so many shapes, yet talk as one. Karsa said a god or a pair of ghosts, but not demon. Their kind used that word too loosely. Forkrill assail, soul taken, divers. None of these are actually demons. None of them were summoned to this world. They are no different from them, or the Lowlanders, or anything else. They are all from this world. Delim deferred to Karsa, but said the word was more representative of their behavior. So with that, anything can be demonic. Landris had hunted them, and if Karsa had not run it into exhaustion, it would have attacked, despite its words otherwise. Karsa said that was true, and that Delim had advised caution. He would not ignore his words. Karsa was finally able to get to a trail that ran parallel to the stream he had been walking in. There was a wall of a mesa that looked to have been smooth at one point in time, but now had faint pictographic images. A procession of people, roughly the size of lowlanders, bareheaded and only wearing a loincloth, with their hands held high overhead, with fingers stretched out as if grasping for air. That's what the pictographs were. The road was cracked and battered by falling rocks, though it still seemed as if the road was one singular piece of rock. Ahead and to the right of Karsa were two stone towers, and beyond them lay the Longshan Sea. The journey had been long. Karsa set his pack down and rested. He knew his journey had been long, but it was longer still, and it seemed he was destined to walk it alone. He thought that his ghosts remained just that, ghosts. Maybe his own mind had made them up. He didn't like that thought. Karsa leaned his head against the sun-heated stone. When he opened his eyes again, it was dark. Voices in his head spoke, saying that they thought he might sleep forever. Does he hear the sounds ahead? Stones are being moved, thrown by the sounds of it, too regular for it to be rocks falling. One could conclude it was the two strangers ahead. Karsa rose and stretched. He could hear the noise. It was early, near dawn, so whoever was working had started early. Karsa ate breakfast, checked his gear, and then got a move on again. Karsa was able to hear the sound of the rocks for half the morning. The road was longer than Karsa had judged. Then, 300 paces away were a pair of tents, and Karsa stopped. One of the figures was clearing rocks in a rhythmic manner, while the other sat on a boulder while he gnawed on a goat leg. Karsa watched, and then approached. Karsa was about 20 paces away when the one eating said to help himself. The thing had nearly brained him falling off a cliff, so he figured he had to eat it. The man thought it was funny, always seeing them climbing about and never expecting them to fall. Well, they do sometimes fall. The one chucking rocks stopped when he heard his friend speaking, rose up and regarded Karsa. Karsa simply stared back at the man. They looked each other over. He saw this one had a weapon, a longbow and a sword, where the other only had a hunting knife. The man again offered him goat leg. Karsa said they spoke the language of the tribes, but he had never seen their kind before, either of them. The man said his name was Mappo, and that he was a Trell from the Jag Odhan, and Karsa was equally rare, but they knew his kind. Thiloman Toblakai. His single-minded friend was Icarium. Karsa asked if Icarium was a common name, as there was a legend from his people about Icarium. Mappo's eyes narrowed and said it wasn't common in the way Karsa thinks, and that Icarium appears in many people's legends. He trailed off, then came back and said it had occurred to him that this chance meeting is unique in many ways. A Trell, a Jag, and a Thiloman Toblakai, each probably the only of their kind on 7 cities. That, and he thinks he knows Karsa, by reputation anyways. He is Shaik's bodyguard. Karsa said this was true. Did this make them enemies? Mappo said not unless Karsa wanted to be enemies, and he would advise against it. Karsa said everyone said that. Mappo suggested Karsa was not as ignorant of them as he thought. Karsa said a dozen wolves had spoken to him. There was little said other than the warning offered. Karsa didn't know what made the two of them dangerous, nor did he care. Get in his way and he would kill them both. Mappo asked if they had a reason to stop him. Karsa said not unless they decided to. Mappo smiled and said it was best if they didn't learn anything more of each other. Karsa agreed. Mappo said that Akarium had already learned everything he needed to of Karsa, and what he intends to do. That is only known to Akarium. Karsa said if he thought he knew him, Akarium was fooling himself. Mappo said they needed to consider the situation. Karsa wears the fur of a soul taken, one both he and Akarium knew, and it was a powerful one. Though the soul taken was not their friend, Karsa is also haunted by ghosts, not just the two that trail him. There you go. But also those he has slain in his short and terrible life. The number is large, and they hate him. Mappo wondered who carried their dead like Karsa does. The only answer he could find was that he was cursed, and he has plenty of experience with curses. They are terrible things. He asked Karsa if Shaik ever spoke to him about convergence. Karsa said no. Mappo continued. When curses collide, they seem to seek to annihilate each other. Now that he is here with Akarium, they could be moments away from a dreadful convergence, and it would be his fate to witness this, but he would be helpless. However, for his own sake, Mappo had felt this feeling before. As Mappo had been talking, Karsa had been eating. He asked what else he and Akarium had learned about him. Mappo said that Rylandris had gauged him and decided that he had no interest in becoming another fur coat for him. He is wise. And a dozen? He has grown, then, which is ominous. And the rest, well, Mappo is choosing not to reveal to Karsa. Karsa grunted, untied his bear cloak, and let it fall to the ground, and drew his sword. A boulder flew through the air, and it was big enough it would have been a challenge for Baroth. The ground shook when it landed. Karsa asked if he would make him wait much longer. At that moment, Akarium emerged and said Karsa was not a Fen, and he believed he was Teblor, a son of the fallen tribes of Lateron. He had traveled a long ways to meet his end. Karsa said if he was so eager, to quit talking. Akarium said he was not eager. This was a moment of pity. The first time he had this feeling, he thought. And thought that was strange. He asked Mappo if they had known other moments like this. Mappo said they had. Akarium said he was then the only one of them burdened with the memories. Mappo said that's how it is. Akarium said he grieved for him, and Mappo told him to draw his sword. Karsa was growing impatient. Akarium asked what would become of this. Mappo didn't know, but he wasn't excited to find out either. Akarium told Karsa he would strive to be efficient as to not let him suffer. Karsa said that was impossible given his infatuation with words, but to get on with it, he had a horse to find. Akarium drew his ancient weapon and approached, flicked his wrist to attack, which was faster than anything Karsa had seen, but he got his blade up in time to meet it. Karsa was left only holding the handle to his sword. Karsa was pissed and punched Akarium right in the face, calling him a bastard for breaking his sword, as he turned to face Mappo when the white light detonated in his skull. And then, nothing. Mappo looked down at Karsa, noting that he was still breathing. Holding his mace, he looked at Akarium and said it went better than he thought, and returned the weapon back into his bag. I had to think about that. Like the first time, I was like, well, it said he didn't have any weapons. And then I remembered that Mappo has this like bag that I don't what kind of crap did he have in there before? I don't remember.
Yeah, he kept his bone mace in there.
I thought we learned some other stuff too, but
I think some like powder or something. I know that like the bag is blessed to be infinite. That's really all I remember.
Yeah, like he could fit Didn't he hide in it or something? I thought somebody hid in the bag too.
No, I don't think
Or-
anybody hid in the bag.
Mm,
Might
and
be
I'm not
something
sure.
else you're reading, but yeah, no, I don't think that happened in the series. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I've got a few thoughts here. So let's see. My first one here, Karsa's talking with Baroth, on this warning from Rylanderus. And they're like, oh, well, it's just blown out of proportion. Like, there's no power in the world that could pose such a threat to the world itself. And it just made me think of, what the fuck is that bowling movie? The Big Lebowski. That's like your opinion, man. They only know a small part of the world, right? Like, there could be power that could wreck the whole thing, right? Like, I feel like Icarium is kind of like the equivalent to a nuke, right?
Yeah,
Like, I feel like if we were to have like a power scale, like, do you think Icarium would be number one right now?
no,
Like, would you don't think he's like as strong as like Rake or anything?
no, I do not.
Who would you put up at the top?
Who I would put up at the top?
Yeah, most as like the most powerful. Obviously, we're 4.5, well, 3.5 books.
Right. Yeah, we have no idea. I mean, I would say, the majority of the elder races, they could battle amongst each other as to who is the most powerful. I'd throw the crippled god above Icarium. I would even throw Envy above Icarium. Hood.
I would think he's
above him.
probably like top few.
Yeah, I would say that he's
up
probably
there.
like, one of the top ascendants. But then I would say that like the gods are above him, and then the elder gods amongst them. You know what I mean? So Cruel, I would say, is probably the top dog.
Just curious.
But I mean, did you think about why? What is it about Karsa and Icarium that if they battled, what would be so devastating to the world?
I think it's just Icarium's probably the power that he has, and then Karsa's just tenaciousness and unwillingness to relent. Like,
Right.
he's just not gonna quit.
Like a fight's going to happen between the two. Like there's and obviously one did, not world ending, but Karza got a punch in there. I mean,
Yeah,
Karza bested Icarium in this small instance, right?
right. Yeah,
So,
which I don't think that's happened. I mean, if it has, it's been a long time.
So by Mappo knocking Karza out, what did that accomplish?
Delayed, that fight probably would have progressed. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't have got that far this time, but maybe they would have leveled some mountains or something.
Maybe. I don't know.
Next thought here, Dellum, where Karsa's getting Dellum's kind of thoughts on things. He says anything can be demonic. And that made me think, like, well, yeah, Karsa, even you can be demonic. Like, I don't think anybody would deny that, he could be viewed as a demon. It's just all about your perspective, right? Like, I don't think he thinks he's necessarily doing anything wrong, but I mean, ultimately he's done some bad things people would say would be demonic. Like look at him, like, which chapter was it where they rode into the city where Baroth and Dellum were killed, like in that first part of the book? Those people probably thought he was a demon.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I really enjoyed this perspective or saying or whatever you want to call it. It totally makes sense, and that it's not just this realm of demons,
Yeah. So these pictographs, I realize now after reading back, like my description might have been like a little wonky, as it seems kind of out of nowhere, I guess. But like these people, roughly the size of lowlanders, bareheaded, only wearing loincloths, hands held high over their head, fingers stretched out. Like, who do you think these are supposed to be?
I feel like these are Emas descendants, or not descendants, but yeah, maybe Emas descendants. I feel like these are probably people that the seven duped prior to the Teblor.
So do you think this is like pictographs of them like worshiping the seven with their hands up?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't super sure, but that's kind of where I was leaning to as well.
I mean, grasping empty air makes me think false promises.
I guess I hadn't thought of that. The one thing I thought is like, how cool, like this world, like I know we get the prologue and Memories of Ice, 300,000 years or whatever it was in the past, but then you get something like this, you got rock paintings, which is more tangible for us, I think, living in our world, to realize like, holy shit, that's old.
Yeah. So
I thought that was cool.
I feel like this journey of Karza is like uncovering small amounts of what happened previously. So I think that like this is just kind of how he's putting everything together, even though it doesn't quite make sense to, at least for me.
I'm sure it'll all come together in the end.
Yeah.
Just reading through this, there was the word where he's eating the goat and it says nod, and I'm like, oh man, I hadn't thought about Gnaw in a while, and I wonder how that pup's doing, because he didn't die, right? Like he hit him and like told him to crawl back to his village or whatever, right? That was Gnaw.
Yeah. I totally forgot about him too. I don't know if he made it. I'm gonna go with I think he's dead. But I also kind of wonder if this is maybe like a Captain Mincer moment where Erickson just forgot to write in what happened to Gnaw, or if it's just meant to be undisclosed.
I'm hoping we get some sort of like triumphant return.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool to see him.
But that was kind of it. I didn't really have anything else the rest of that section here. We get Karsa's fight, and then he gets kind of cold cocked in the back of the head here.
What is with Mappo doing that? Because he did that to Akarium in Deadhouse Gates too.
He's just he likes the sneak attack, I guess.
Or he just knows what's going to happen because he's seen so many of these things, right? That he's just like, well, I don't actually want this to happen, so boop.
Yeah, I guess.
I call something out that happens in this chapter or in this section at the end. But I'm curious, what do you think about this part where Mappo says that when curses converge, they tend to annihilate each other?
I think it's talking about the curse that Akarium carries, right? Like he has no memories essentially. And I think his curse as well, with his ghosts or just his kind of his attitude, I guess, maybe. I almost feel like Carson needs to be taken down a notch. I mean, he's been captured. Like, he's gone through a lot of stuff, and he still has this, like, attitude about him that he can't be touched, which kind of blows my mind with all the horrible stuff he's been put through. He hasn't really, like, learned a lesson yet, I kind of feel like.
That's fair. I kind of wonder if what happened to Akarium is what Karza will experience. Like, what we know about Akarium, is that what is going to happen to Karza?
Maybe.
Because, I mean, think about both of their personalities. They do what? They destroy.
Yeah, they're a little headstrong.
And we've heard of Akarium leveling entire cities, right? Well, why do you think he did that?
Because he was big mad.
No, because seven ghosts in his head told him to.
I did, after I read this chapter this morning, I guess we can talk about it then when we get there.
Yeah.
That last section. But I was wondering about things, and then I kind of had that, I think, a thought where you're going. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've got here. If you want to, I think this is your short Eva section.
Yes, it is. Pounding pain behind his eyes and the sound of a river roaring in his head. Karza groaned and got up. It was dawn again. He told Bayroth and Delum to keep their comments to themselves. He can guess what happened, and that the trail had struck him from behind. He took a slow, cautious look around. He realized that he was alone. He unstrapped the dented helm and tossed it aside. Bayroth said that at least Karza was well rested. Karza was surprised to find Bayroth less amused than he originally thought. He asked his ghost friend if Akarium was one from their Teblor stories. Bayroth explains that Karza is the only Teblor to have crossed blades with him. Karza said that Akarium had broken his sword. Neither ghostly friend replied to that. Karza began prepping to continue his journey. He set off down the road, but then paused to look upon the cavity that Icarium had been excavating. The Jag had partially uncovered a statue. It was a tall statue of black, grainy stone, a statue of a seven-headed hound. It had been completely buried by the fall and would never have been revealed that it existed beneath the rubble. Icarium had uncovered it, and for reasons unknown to Karza. Karza murmured that Icarium has lived far too long. He turned from the cavity and resumed down the road. Seven-headed statue. We've come across not a few of these, but just hound statues in general. Right? I don't remember if the one on the Nascent, if it was seven-headed. I
think there was just seven of them.
Yeah. So there are seven-headed statues? Or was it seven individual hounds?
I took in this section, you mean?
No, in the one previous with Onrak and Troll.
Oh, I mean, it's just like the cover of the book. I think it's just individual hounds, but this one I think is one body with seven heads.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm getting at too.
Yeah.
Which makes me think of the Ivers.
But why does it have seven heads on one body? I don't know.
Evolution of the Ivers. This is where they stem from. Soul taken gone wrong, right? I don't know.
You know what, though? I was thinking about this. You know what I'm glad of? Karza doesn't touch this thing. If there's one thing I've learned, if I somehow wound up in this world, I'm not touching any statues.
Just based on Onrak's experience?
And Heberick.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Interesting. So do you think that, from what we learned about the other statues, right, is that this is a home of something, right? Like this was once worshipped. Is it alive and well, or is it still inside?
I don't know. And I got the impression that like Icarium and Mappo left. Did you? Like they're gone.
Yeah.
So is this all that we're gonna find out on this particular statue? Are they gonna like come back? Like are they just watching? Are they on like the next hill over watching to see when Karza leaves so they come back and finish doing whatever they're doing?
I don't know. I guess I never thought that they were doing something. I thought it was just bored.
Well, he was digging up the statue for whatever reason. Icarium must have known it was there for one reason or another. Maybe he doesn't understand why he knows it's there, but like I'm wondering, like, is this one of his creations for some reason? Like, why is he digging this thing up?
Well, from what I remember in Deadhouse Gates is he's trying to recover his memories, right? So maybe this is just something, it kind of seems, right? Here we go back to the elliptical stuff, right? Is that Mappo, or not Mappo, but Icarium gets so close to figuring it out and then is all of a sudden back to square one.
Yeah.
It very sounds like Tano sorcery, very elliptical.
But I just wonder, like, if they're going to come back to this, or if we're just done with whatever this is.
I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe they will come back. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't even think of that. I just kind of like, it is what it is. Okay, he uncovered the statue. Great. All right, on to the next thing.
Well, friends, listeners, I guess just let us know if there's anything more we get out of this, or if this is it, then I guess that will curb my curiosity on it. But
yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if they will come back now.
That's where my brain went.
Or maybe they will off screen and they just mention it in passing.
Yeah, anything, right?
Yeah, or they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, we're digging for blah blah blah." So we'll just put a pin in it.
Well, anything else on that section for you?
Not at all.
All right. Well, I'll do my last one here. 6 days later, with the city of Lato Reve behind him, Karza laid in the shadow of a Goldinda tree. He watched some farmers herd their sheep towards a corral. The sun would be down soon, and he would continue his journey. He waited during the day as to be unseen. These lands between Lato Reve and the Mercen River were fairly populated, while the Panpatsan Odhan was pretty much abandoned by civilization. Karsa used ditches along the sides of the road to remain hidden. A village ahead at the crossroads of Malazan tracks had a tower near the center and limestone walls and likely held soldiers of the apocalypse. Karsa had no interest in making contact with them. His journey was a private one, if only because he wanted it that way. It did not appear that the rebellion was as bloodthirsty here. There was no widespread destruction of farms or other property, no killing of villagers. Karsa wondered if there were many Malazans this far west, or perhaps the garrisons had been recalled to the bigger cities like Kehum, Sarpachaya, and Ugarat. Karsa did not like being weaponless, aside from the Malazan sword he used as a knife. Though there was no suitable wood to be used in this area, but there was said to be ironwood trees in the Jag Odin, so he would wait and see. Once dark, he gathered his things and set out on one of the imperial roads that led in the direction he wanted. It likely connected Lato Rive to Ugarat, and if any of the bridges still held crossing the Mercen River, it would be the Malazan-built bridges. He skirted the north side of the village in the wet fields, thinking how much it would suck to work in them every day. Not the life for a warrior. The reward seemed to be only for the rich landowners, while the laborers struggled with a minimal existence and worn-out bodies and early death. Karsa thought the wealth was measured in control over other people, and the grip of that control could never be allowed to loosen. He thought it odd that the rebellion didn't seem to consider these inequities, though most of the suffering had been put on the lowborn and common folk. What difference did the color of the collar around your neck make if all the chains linking them together were the same color? Karsa thought this blood-soaked apocalypse was a pointless misdirection of anger that, after it passed, would leave the world unchanged. Karsa crossed a ditch and found himself at a garbage pit that also had lowlander bones in it. So here were the Malazans, just as tamed and broken as the earth, their flesh flung back into the ground. And Karsa had no doubt it was their rivals that urged their deaths. And so, once again, Karsa Orlong, we are given the truths of the lowlanders. For every virtue they espouse, 1,000 self-serving evils belie their piety. Know them, war leader, for one day they will be your enemy. Karsa listened, then told Barath he was not a fool or blind. Delim told Karsa there was a place of haunting ahead, and it was as ancient as their people, and those that lived here avoided it. Barath said that was not completely true. On occasion, fear inspired them. However, the place is dangerous. Elder powers beckon. Will Karsa walk the path? Karsa moved forward between two barrows and up a slope to a stone that was up to his waist, covered in black symbols, some which he recognized. He muttered that this was hardly a place to fear. One of his friends spoke to him, saying he was wrong. These were signs of fear. This was desecration, and if this was a place without power, then it would have been indifference. Karsa was in the center of a stone ring and picked up a bit of bone. Lowlander in size, but somewhat more robust. It was an outer edge of an eye socket and thick, like that of his gods. Karsa asked Barath, and Delim if they sensed the presence of a spirit or god. Delim said no. Barath told him a shaman was buried here. His head was cut off and put on a stand, then shattered perhaps millennia later, so it would no longer see. Karsa asked why this place had any value to him then. Barath said for the way through it offers. Karsa didn't understand. Barath said, a way west to the Jag Odin, a trail in the dreamland. A journey that would take months will take days if he chose to take it. It still lives, as it was just used by an army not long ago. Karsa didn't know how he would walk this trail. Barath said they would guide him. Like the one buried here, they are neither alive nor dead. Hood cannot find their spirits, as they are with him, and their presence adds to Hood's hatred of him, or Karsa. Karsa didn't understand why Hood would hate him. They explained it's because what he has taken and would not give Hood. He is a keeper of souls, so now Hood fears. When had Hood last had a rival? Karsa said he wasn't interested in being Hood's rival. He wanted to break the chains and free Baroth and Delim, but they said it would be better if he didn't do that. Karsa said they were the only two who probably felt that way. He thought to himself that to cast away his enemies, he must also cast off his friends. So Hood follows and waits, for that day must come. He hid these thoughts from his friends, and they didn't appreciate it. Karsa said he was the war leader, and he was not here to make them happy. Were they now displeased that they followed him? They said no, not yet anyways. Karsa told Delim to lead him to this dream world. The air grew colder, and the smell reminded Karsa of spring. Where there was farmland moments ago, there was now tundra. Karsa could see the path the army had trampled into the earth. Karsa followed in their wake. This world seemed timeless. The sky didn't change, and on occasion he heard some sort of beast in the distance, unable to tell what they were. Other than some buzzing insects, it was eerily quiet here. He thought this is what it must be like that the elders visit, looking for clarity and omens. It was not unlike what he had seen when he had met Urugal. As Karsa continued, it grew colder, and soon the smell of rotting ice filled Karsa's nose. There were huge chunks of broken ice stuck in the ground as if they had fallen from the sky. Baroth said they were now at the border of a new warren. A warren meant to obstruct the army that walked here, so a war was waged. Karsa asked how far he had traveled in this world. Did he now approach Ugaret? Sarpachia? They both laughed and said he approached the Jag Oden. Karsa felt as though he had traveled only half a day. Signs of the army's advance grew more infrequent. He saw a plain with stones among it, and before he knew it, Karsa was walking in that field. Karsa looked down and saw bodies pinned beneath rocks. Delim asked if Karsa would free them. He said no, he would not disturb them. Delim said they were not Forkrul Assail, and that many were dead since they didn't have the power their kind once had, while others are still alive and will not die for a long time, perhaps thousands of years. Did Karsa no longer believe in mercy? Karsa said his beliefs were his own, and he would not undo what he did not understand, and left the plain behind him. He reached a field of ice with thousands of bones strewn across it, bones Karsa had never seen before, and shards of stone weapons lay about. The fallen warriors formed a semicircle around a low-walled tower that Karsa made his way towards. He was able to get through the door without ducking. It was filled with wrecked furniture and more fragments of bones. From what he could see, the furniture was more sized for a tabler than a lowlander. He made his way to a staircase and went up. It was a mess. A voice welcomed Karsa. Karsa said he had crossed blades with someone who looked like... His name was Icarium, but he was also not quite the same. The figure said that's because Icarium was half-blood, while she is not. She was laying spread-eagle on the floor with a stone on her chest. Karsa said she was trapped within sorcery. An army sought her, yet did not kill her. She said it would be more accurate to say that they could not kill her. Not immediately, anyways. The Tellan ritual will eventually destroy Amtos Falak, which will cause the death of the Jag Odin. The forest from the north creeps onto the plains, and the desert from the south works its way up, claiming more of the Odin than was her home. Karsa said her refuge. She gave a short smile and said they were one and the same. Karsa looked around, seeing no weapon or armor, and asked if when Omtos Falak dies, if she did as well. Though she only spoke of the death of the Odin as if her death wouldn't matter. She said her death would be less important than the death of the Odin. Beyond some of her kin who escaped the Logros Imes, there were other ancient beasts that walked these lands. Beasts that are dead everywhere else, and usually at the end of an Imes spear. Karsa asked if that included jag horses. She said they used to be bred to ride, but now they were feral, but still a few were around, though the trail came from the west to hunt them and drive them off cliffs. Karsa asked why she didn't stop them. She said because she was busy hiding, and Karsa said look how that turned out. She said she was discovered by a scouting party of Imus. She destroyed most of them, but one did get away. She knew eventually an army would come for her. Karsa asked how many she destroyed. She said 7. Karsa asked if that's what was spread around the tower. She smiled and said she doubted it. To the Imus, destruction was failure, and failure must be punished. They have elaborate ways. Karsa asked about those around the tower. She said they were fallen, but not in failure. Here she lay, after all. Karsa said enemies should be killed, not imprisoned. The Jag said she agreed with him. Karsa said she sensed no evil from her, and she said it had been a long time since she had heard that word. Even in their wars with the Tlanimus, there was no place for that word. Karsa said he must answer an injustice. She said as he would. Karsa said the need overwhelms all caution, and that Delim Thord would be proud. The Jag asked who Delim Thord was. Karsa dropped his pack and took off his cloak, giving the Jag no answer, and stepped towards the ring of stones. She told Karsa to stay back. This was High Telan. Karsa interrupted her and said he was Karsa Orlong of the Teblor and kicked the nearest stone. Flames leapt up Karsa's leg, but he pushed through it. Lifting the stone off the woman's chest, flames raced up his arms. He chucked the rock against the wall where it broke and the flames died. The Jag looked up in shock at Karsa. She had never seen anything like it. She said ignorance was honed into a weapon. It was extraordinary. Karsa asked if she was hungry or thirsty and prepared a meal. She said he had crossed swords with the Carium. There was only ever one outcome doing that. However, he was proof otherwise. Karsa said they would likely resume their disagreement next time they met. The Jag asked Karsa how he got here. Karsa said he was looking for a horse. He said the journey was a long one, and that he was told taking this dream world would be a shortcut. She understood. The ghost warrior standing behind him, even still, it was dangerous traveling the Telan Warren. She said she owed him her life. How could she repay him? Karsa said, find him a horse. She asked if that was all he wanted. Karsa said he would know what her name was. She said, Aramala. Karsa said he wanted to know everything she could tell him of the 7 who first found her. She said she would, but she would ask something of him as well. He had passed through a place where other Jag had been imprisoned. She would free those who survived. They are half-bloods. Karsa said that is what he had heard. Aramala asked if he was curious as to what the other half of their blood was. Karsa frowned. She said she had a lot to tell him. So this morning, after I reread this section, I kind of had the thought, like, do you think the other half of their blood, and Icarium as well, do you think it's Toblakai blood?
Or Teblor, Fen.
Yeah.
One of these larger, yeah, I think that is, yes. Which would explain why Icarium is part of their lore, their histories.
Yeah. I did not pick up on that the first time through reading it or summarizing it. And that was kind of, that was probably my last point. Like, yeah, I would like to know, and I wasn't sure if we'd found out already, and I didn't really remember finding anything out in Deadhouse Gates or anything like that.
But also this kind of gives us more contextual information, right? Why would the Amass go after Jag too? Because they felt that they were an abomination, right? Kind of similar to Soul Taken and D'Ivers. Very similar. Like I said, they're like Team America. They're like the world's police, They just, if they don't like it or if they disagree with it, like it must be eradicated.
Kill it.
Yeah. So, which leads me to believe, and maybe this is something that we can talk about in this next section, but some of the theories that I have around Icarium.
All right. I will say this was probably my favorite section in the chapter.
I would agree. I feel like you probably have a better sense of clarity than I do, purely just because you got to summarize it, where I just read it a couple of times, but I still feel a little lost because I feel like there was a lot in this section.
There was a lot. It was a pretty long one.
Yes. I think it was 11 pages total?
Something like that.
So I guess, what do you got for us?
I didn't have anything, for the first, I don't know, however many pages it was, but we get this quote from, I don't remember if this was Baroth or Dellum talking to Karsa, but, he says, "Know them, war leader, for one day they will be your enemy." Oh, I think that was Baroth, because then Karsa's like, "Oh, I'm not a fool or blind." But do you think this is like this must be some sort of like foreshadowing? Do you think Karsa's going to be turned on?
Probably, yeah. I would imagine that. Well, I don't know. I guess, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't really know either. It's just one of those read and find out moments, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see. Karsa comes up to this place with the black symbols, some of these that he recognized, and that, he says this is hardly a place to fear. And I think about like earlier in the book where they translated some of the symbols they found. Do you think these are like similar symbols?
I think so. Yeah. So maybe this is like a Thelaman Toblokai cemetery, or I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was some sort of like church or temple or something like that. Was kind of one of my thoughts. I think it was probably more detailed than I summarized here, but I didn't know if you had any feelings on that.
No.
They're talking about the head that's cut off and shattered millennia later, so it could no longer see. And so my comment here, I guess I probably should have been a little bit more elaborate, because I just wrote "remind you of something," and I guess I don't even know what I was thinking at that time.
Well, it happened at 11:27 a.m. today, so that was me. That was me.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
I'm just reading it from the Derek and Justin set of mine. Yeah, so it reminded me of when Pearl and Lestara kind of go into the Tis-Leosin Warren or Talan, wherever they are, and they find the head of the Talani Mass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they like perch it so that it could look off into the distance.
Yep. Yeah, I did think of, Talani is what this must have been, but
yeah, so I'm kind of going back to section 2 with the pictographs. I'm assuming that this is probably the descendants of the Talani Mass, the first empire, so to speak.
Gotcha. I did not catch the timestamp on that, so thanks.
Yeah, it's okay. I was wondering if you were going to read it as if it were your own. As soon as I realized the D say Justin in green,
and I totally did too. You
That's
had me
funny.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
So Karsa, like when he first crosses over into this other realm, this Warren, the sky doesn't change, and he hears some sort of beasts. He couldn't really tell what they were, and then there's some insects buzzing and that type of thing. Maybe wonder if this was like the Mybe's realm.
I wondered that too. And I think that's probably the case, because later on it says that it wasn't like the world that he had seen Uragal in. So I would imagine that, this is the Mybe's dream, the dream world, the realm that was concocted by Silver Fox in the last book.
But then it like changes too, which I thought was kind of weird.
Well, they're on the edge of a new Warren, is what it said.
But I guess I kind of thought that the Mybe's was more, I guess, like isolated, but...
Well, I mean, think about it, right? So obviously there's this plan, right, to birth Silver Fox, right? And as a gift and an act of compassion for stealing the life from her mother, she is told of this ancient realm that no longer exists that she could like bring back, right? That's kind of the premise that I get around the Mybe's realm. Do you think by bringing that back, it opened up maybe some Omotos Falak that was hiding there? Remember the Amass are on this like never-ending quest to kill Alda Jaghut?
Yep.
So I'm kind of thinking that what was supposed to be a gift is maybe an ulterior motive to go kill other Jaghut.
Maybe.
I don't know. The whole part with like an army had recently visited was confusing to me. Because if it is the Mybe's realm, then what recent army was there?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like, because I was thinking, well, like, was this the Was it the few that went to go kill Febral's demon, like that?
Right. Yeah.
Or is it like thousands of people? I wasn't sure. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That was like that's the part that like I think has gotten me confused. Is Mybee's dream, Jag Hut Warren, like I can totally understand like that crossing, but it's the recent army thing that has gotten me confused.
Unless it's just something from, super long ago or something. But even still, like, I don't know.
Yeah, so because I know that Karza is following this army, right? And then eventually leads to, right? Or am I getting that wrong? Was it after they crossed into the Jag Hut Warren that they found a recent army going through, or was it before then?
Well, he followed him through, and there was this. It had to be. It must have been Imus because we got all sorts of clues here, right? Like we got the their weapons about and stuff. I don't know. It must not have been the ones going to kill Feral's demon, but
No. I'm going to guess that it has something to do with what I was maybe inferring, and that now that the Mybee's ancient dream is back up and running, obviously it existed previously and now exists again. So I'm sure that the IMAS are exploring it because it is kind of technically their realm, the hold of the beasts or whatever.
right. Aramal is talking about the Odin. I get the sense that it was almost like some sort of like wildlife reservation or like a natural park or something, or like a refuge type deal. I don't know. That was just kind of the vibe that I got just with how it was described, and then these Imus came in here and killed everything. Maybe they weren't, maybe the Jag were a little more in touch with nature than the Imus were.
Maybe, but also, they're hiding from the amass, right? Well, what better way to hide than in an environment that is not cold?
True.
But I also kind of got the feeling that they're hiding within a warren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's kind of all of it here. My last thought we kind of talked about right after the beginning here. There's a lot to this section, and I didn't have too many thoughts. I mean, I feel like it was pretty straightforward. A lot of neat things happening in it here. Karsa breaking through this magic. I forgot about the semicircle outside. Like you were talking about in the beginning. I was thinking about the circle of stones surrounding Aramala is what I was thinking of. The full circle.
Yeah, the semicircle of the seven, right?
I thought it wasn't the seven.
That's what I thought Armala said, is that they were the bodies of the seven.
I thought she said it wasn't because that would have been like a failure or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, the seven live outside of the ritual, so it isn't a failure. There isn't the consequences of failing because they live outside of the ritual. So the rules of failure don't apply, is kind of where I was going with it. Okay. So I'm kind of wondering if these are like the physical bodies of the seven.
Could be. Ready to close this chapter off?
Let's close it down.
It'd be a fairly quick episode by our standards.
Yeah. Karza exited the tower, resuming the trail of the army that led through the Tos Falak. When he finally emerged from the warren and into the heat of his world, he found himself on the edge of a ridge. He took in the sights and the scopes out the land. The Talani mass had reappeared in this place. Though their passage to the hills in the distance, they had left no sign. But centuries have passed in this world since then. Dusk had arrived by the time he reached the foothills. Once he climbed to the summit and saw what was on the other side, he couldn't believe what forces of nature could have caused the landscape he had seen. The flat-top mesas were formed of erosion, as if floods had run through the valley. He eventually made his way down the steep slope. He quickly discovered that the slopes were honeycombed with caves and pits. The rubble fanning out from these holes was flint. He thought to himself as he traversed the valley floor that this entire place could be where a whole army made their weapons. Bayroth chimed in and said that Karza was circling the truth, like a wolf circling an elk. Karza grunted in reply. He could see on the opposite valley wall more caves. He set his sights on them and made his way to them. He approached a large cave mouth about 1/3 up the cliff. There was no light in the cave due to the angle of the sun, so Karza set down his pack and pulled out a small lantern and lit it. Karza explored deeper of the cave, eventually coming into a large cavern. Karza walked over to one of the wall niches and revealed that another cavern lay beyond. It was filled with flint weapons. Karza thought that they were the weapons of the dead, the weapons of the failed. He knew that every cave within this cliff would have the same thing. None of the other ones were important to him, though. He set down his stuff near a pillar of flint. He spoke the names of his gods and told his gods that he had delivered them to this place. They were broken and severed. He was commanded to bring them to this place, and so he has. Urugal's voice rasped in reply that Karza had found which was taken from them, and he had freed their gods. Karza watched as the ghost of Urugal slowly took shape. Urugal said that Karza had found their weapons. Karza replied that they could be in many of the chambers. Urugal said that they were, and that their weapons did not fail them. Karza stated that the ritual did, though. As the other 6 manifested, Urugal explains their physical forms approached after a long time of traveling. Karza didn't seem interested, but asked what master they now served. Urugal said that they had guided Karza to this, and so shall the Teblor's reward be given. Sabal now spoke and explained to Karza that they had gathered an army of all of the children sacrificed before the faces in the rock. They have been prepared for Karza, as his homeland is being assailed by lowlanders. Karza said that he shall do this. Urugal said that the 7 gods of the Teblor would now be 8. The one named Halad, hulking and bestial, said that Karza must fashion a sword of stone. Karza tells him to fuck off nicely, as he is Teblor, Thelamin Toblakai, and he'll fashion his own damn weapon. He walks over to the flint pillar. Halad warns Karza that the flint pillar was too big and none of his kind, Imas, could fashion anything from such a large piece. Halad begins to godsplain how to go about harvesting the flint. Karza told the Imas to fuck off, as they're not the only kind that know of stone. Urugal was surprised at Karza calling them Imas, that he asks the Teblor how Karza knew. Karza sneers at Urugal and explains that they couldn't fool him, a Teblor, a fallen Toblakai. He would rise. The 7 were Imas, and now unbound from wandering from hold to house. Karza climbed the pillar of flint, and at the top he took out his Malazan short sword and started to make work at the top edge. Inside his head, he tells Bayroth and Delm that one day he would break his chains and free the souls that hound him. Being that the pair did not wish to be embraced by Hood, he has fashioned an alternative. They respond and tell Karza that they understand the intent and applaud his genius. They say that their hand is forced, as it's either Hood or the path Karza sought. Karza saw that it was not just for him, but for Bayroth as well. He asked if Bayroth denied it. The ghostly friend said no, and that they accepted what Karza had offered. Karza knew that he alone could see his ghostly friends. They dissolved by pure will and flowed into the flint pillar, found shape and cohesion. Waiting a few moments, then raised the pommel of his short sword, he struck the flint. A strange popping noise was heard, and he was falling to the ground. He managed to land on his knees and caught a spear as large as the Teblor himself. It had fell away from the pillar and settled into his hands. He felt warm blood running down his arms from his palms. He set the blade down. When he pulled his hands away, he saw that they had been cut down to the bone. He thought to himself that Bayroth was clever, sealing the deal by drinking his blood. Halad was heard saying that Karza had surpassed even them. Karza went to his pack and pulled out items to bandage himself with. He would need his hands to be bandaged, as he still needed to work out the grip on the spear.
Urugal behind him said that they will invest the weapon so that it would not break. Karza nodded. Urugal spoke again, saying that they would make him the 8th god of the Templar. Karza said no, as he is not like the Amass. He is not unbound. His gods gave him his chains and made it so his slain would follow him for eternity. They have shaped his haunting, and for that he could never be unbound. Urugal said that there was a place for Karza in the House of Chains. Karza said correct. The Knight of Chains, champion of the crippled god. Urugal said that Karza had learned much. Karza stared down at his bloody hands and said that he had learned much, and that the 7 would witness. Damn.
What you got?
So I know that like this whole recent army conversation, they talk about the Talani Mass had reappeared in the Jag Odin, right? Though their passage to the hills in the distance, they left no trace, but it had been centuries since they had passed it. So maybe since time is such a thing in that Warren, maybe it was recent. And as he pops out, it's now centuries later. So maybe in a way he time traveled. I don't know.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it.
But also in the section with Armala, he asks if the 7 were among the bodies at the base of the tower. And she replies that they weren't. Okay, so that kind of answers my question. So I think it's cool that Karza freed her, but I think that also it served a dual purpose in that it kind of tells him which way they went. Because he's following the army, right? I'm going to assume that this army was led by the 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But don't you think it's funny that Sabal has raised an army for Karza to lead against the lowlanders? So kind of your foreshadowing point, right? Is it possible that they did this to Akarium too?
Maybe.
Obviously not with the crippled god, but
maybe, yeah.
This next thought where Karza is saying that, the 7 were broken and severed, and he has commanded them to bring him to this place, and so he has. This part, like, I'm so little lost to know as to how Karza was able to bring them here. Is it just a prayer type of thing? Because, like, he speaks their name, and then they're there. But why the need for the stone statues at Shaik's camp? Is that was that only needed so that they could travel between continents? Or are they like trailing Karza as ghosts, like Bayroth and Delum? Maybe they were deceiving Karza by making them think his gods were his friends.
I kind of thought like Karza carving like the stone statues or whatever was just kind of him working through some grief, I guess.
But
not
he
that
also
there needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, he carved Bayroth and Delum in a much more correct and detailed, but he did also sculpt the 7. So I guess I'm more or less wondering about the semantics as to how they go from being trapped on Genebacus to here. Like, what are those transition pieces? And that's the only thing that makes sense to me is he created a place of worship so that they were able to go from one continent to the next, because it's kind of a big jump. But from here, they're already on the same continent. So maybe it's just I speak your names, and they go from the stone birch grove or wherever that is to where Karza is, thus reuniting with their weapons, and their bodies have been following this whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely haven't put that much deep thought into it. I guess I never really thought that they were stuck on like Genebacus, I guess.
But I mean, then why would they need Karza to bring them here if they weren't stuck? It kind of like undermines all of Karza's what he's gone through if they didn't need him, because they were trying to do it with his grandfather, but his grandfather failed, is my guess.
I guess I thought it was just kind of like a trial. Like they're with him, watching him. Like whereas we kind of learned that his grandfather didn't have the same mental, like, I guess, fortitude. I don't know if that's really the right word, but he's definitely not as like cutthroat as Karza, right? Like he told stories like he was, but then Karza sees the other side where
Yeah.
You know, he kind of chickened out in some ways. So I don't know.
I mean, I feel like, Karza's hiatus in Shaik's camp, right? I feel like that would have pissed off the seven and they would have just found someone else.
But in the
Like,
grand scheme
if
of
it was
things,
really a trial, I would call that a failure. He took too long.
But they've got all the time in the world, though. Like I never really got the sense that they're concerned with time.
Maybe I don't know. It's just a weird semantic thing. Like, how do they do?
Sure, I get it.
It's the same thing. Like, Urgal explains that their physical forms approach after a long time of traveling. Well, how are they traveling if they're outside of the ritual? Where are their physical bodies? Are they on? Yeah, I mean, like, hopefully there's some answers here, but it's just like, okay, cool. I got it. Your physical forms are meeting up with your spirits. Great. You've got your weapons. Cool. Understand. But how did you go from one place to the next? And how are your physical bodies forming or traveling? Are they just like 7 rotting corpses just taking a boat cross? You know what I mean? Like, where are they? I'm assuming they're on 7 cities somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
Now, here's kind of where my Icarium thing comes in. Urgal said that the 7 gods of the Teblor would now be 8, kind of like including Karza in there. But, I get this weird feeling that what Mappo was saying about Karza and Icarium's curses converging is potentially being applied here. And is this potentially how Icarium was conscripted in destroying all the cities and now just is cursed to not remember? And I'm just kind of wondering, does a similar fate belong to Karza? Like, all this seems to make sense, right? Because the 7 seem to have preyed upon the Jag. And I think that they picked a noble, strong warrior in Icarium to go about their bidding, right? And now, like, Karza has been cursed with carrying the souls of his dead, making him a target to Hood, right? Like, that has to be intentional, right? The 7 don't want him to survive. So, yeah, I don't know. I get this weird parallel to Icarium here.
I'm seeing that more now that I think, especially with that realization that maybe that other half of his blood is, Toblakai or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, maybe they have used Icarium. Maybe whatever the Talani Mass punished the 7, right? And then they have used Icarium to destroy the Teblor so bad that they have broken the Teblor or fallen, right? Kind of going back to our epigraph, the annihilation of the Teblor, in order to break them into smaller groups and seclude them from the rest of the world so that they could gain popularity as their gods, right? They took over their spirits. They kicked out you know what I mean? Like, it all kind of starts to, these small little details kind of add to the painting of the bigger picture. Is just kind of where my mind is going. So they got busted. They used Icarium to carry out their deeds with the Teblor. Like, hey, there's this mass of people, blah, blah, blah. You're actually half of them. I don't like them. I don't like you either. So, yeah. This part where, Karza is just, he's so defiant at the end here. I just fucking love it. But he's saying that, like, you know what? I was an ignorant Teblor, and I had fallen Toblakai, and I will rise. Like, the knowledge he's been gaining is his way of trying to break his chains, right? He says that the 7 were Talani Mass, and they were unbound and wandering from hold to house. And I was just like, they've been running from their fellow kin for a long time. And I'm almost kind of wonder who they potentially served previously, or if this was all on their own. This was all their own doing, because this whole wandering from hold to house, it kind of seems like they just kind of do what they please.
I don't think I've got any answers for you.
So I just kind of wonder, like, how many Warrens have they potentially tried to like take over,
I have
or
no
how
idea.
many? Yeah, how many, like the Teblor? You know, they essentially eradicated their spirits, pushed them down, kicked them out. So how many times have they been doing this?
They've had plenty of time. They could have done it a lot.
Yeah. This whole part where this the flint spear is formed, it falls, Karza catches it, but it like cuts him all the way to the bone. And then he thought that Bayroth was clever, sealing the deal by drinking his blood. Not really sure if I understand that. Do you have any thoughts?
So he breaks off like this big flint spear, which he's gonna make it a sword, right?
Yeah.
I think that the sword is going to be maybe similar to Dragnipur in a way, because I think Baroth and Delim are going to be within it.
Yeah, they've invested it. That's how he was able to break the chains.
So I don't know if like that. I don't know. That's kind of all I've got.
Yeah.
I don't know that what will happen with like these other souls. I don't know that they're going to be in it, but I think like that's going to hide them from Hood being in this sword, and then they can be with him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if maybe with Karsa's blood, maybe that's just some sort of like fallback plan if something happens to the sword. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I just go back to the elder gods and what they were saying, and that the way that they died out is because they were too focused on like blood rituals. You know what I mean? So it just kind of reminds me of that. So I wonder if it maybe potentially because of this has some type of elder elevation in power.
Maybe.
And then of course, when he's talking about, I'm not yet done with this flint fragment. Well, not even a fragment, but this large piece of flint. And it just reminded me of the beginning of Memories of Ice and even Damien's very well thought out stone is stone conversation. I imagine Karza just chipping away at this flint like Tool was doing to the obsidian.
Yeah.
And then my last thought is I don't really see Karza serving the crippled god. I don't see it because he's so pissed off right now. Like he doesn't want to work with the 7. He doesn't want to be a part of the 8. Are the 7 saying he's part of the 8, but really that's a lie too because he's the Knight of Chains and he's figured that out. He's like called them out on their bluff.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. It's hard to see him like cooperating with the crippled god, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe even though he's in that house or taking that role, maybe he can kind of rebel against it or something. I don't know.
But if he's chained to it, he's like forced, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't know where this is going to go.
I'm definitely interested to read on. I don't even know how many pages this next chapter is.
I think it's between 25 and 30.
That's it?
Yeah, it's not super long.
Oh, yeah, 654. 628 to 654. Yeah, so I'll probably go read. I don't have much on my plate today, so
yeah, I'm hopefully I can read it today too. I'm gonna try and finish my other book here and get some cleaning done and that type of thing. But I did like this chapter quite a bit.
Yeah, I did too. It was nice to get. It was nice to kind of get Karza's. It kind of feels like it's the end of Karza's journey, and now it's starting anew. Like now there's a new thing that he has to take on.
Yeah, I just have no idea where the story is going to go really for him.
Right.
But
well, and he freed a Jaghut. It's going to piss off the Amass because they just essentially left her there to die.
Do you think that they'll be able to like sense that circle was broken or anything?
Maybe. I mean, what is it that they can't do? Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that, now that she's free, there are, I don't know what she'll do. If she'll go hide again or if she'll join forces with somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we know they kind of prefer to be solitary for the most part, but
Right.
read and find out. We shall.
Yeah. I will I'll probably delve into it after I get some household stuff taken care of. But yeah.
Pretty quick episode today.
Yeah. Fairly quick.
Anything else we got? I can't really think of
I got
anything
nothing.
else. Me
Where do
neither.
where do you think the next chapter is gonna go?
I don't know. And I'm not sure who we'll get to see, because I feel like it's been a while since we've had just like a fully solo Karsa chapter. Maybe it hasn't. I don't know.
This whole chapter we just did was solo Karsa.
I know. I mean, prior to that.
Oh, yeah, got it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure who should be coming up in the rotation, and I suppose that could always be subject to change as well.
Well, the previous chapter was Haborik and the green statue, right? And that's when we found out about Febrile, and then as well as Shaik. So I would imagine that we're going back to Strings and Gamut and all those guys.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of them again.
Yeah, because we haven't seen them since the fetish, right? The icon episode where the hill was dressed as a Christmas tree and
Oh yeah.
Strings ran into what's his name's. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting. So I would imagine that they're, continuing on their journey. Maybe they'll run into Leoman and his scouting party.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm excited to read it. Yeah, well, we'll get back and do this sometime again soonish here. Hopefully, yeah, we can. I think we could get another one, maybe 2 chapters in before I get my basement done here. But yeah, well, to keep you in touch. We'll have to figure out a time when we're actually going to start tearing into stuff. And if you don't have anything going on, maybe you come down and
tear some
shit up, and then hang out for a bit.
Yeah, that sounds great. Maybe even while we're down there, we can record an episode if needed.
That'd be kind of cool. Let's see how things time out.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday here, and we will talk soon.
Sounds great, man. You do the same.
All right. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's 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 Epic Quest.